Following it all for us in Washington, D.C. Let's bring in CTV's Richard Madan to the conversation. Richard, of course, lots of ground covered. You were listening to it all. What's the big takeaway here?
Well, it really depends on which direction you're looking at. I think it was worth noting that both leaders used similar language to describe the tone and atmosphere inside the room while they were having their summit. Joe Biden telling reporters that the tone was good, positive, there were no threats, and nothing was done in a hyperbolic atmosphere. President Putin echoed similar language. Now, if you're looking at what the government's believe were achieved today. I'm just going to read from you a joint statement from the White House and the Kremlin that just was released moments ago. This is by Biden and Putin that says, quote, even in periods of tension, they are able to make progress on our shared goals of enduring predictability in the strategic sphere, reducing the risk of armed conflicts and the threat of nuclear war. So essentially, they're pointing to their agreement to discuss the nuclear arms control treaty that is set to expire. So that would be considered a win for both countries. But on the same point, both nations are really tampering expectations. There were some small deliverables. President Putin announced that diplomats in Washington and in Moscow will return to their posts after being recalled back. President Biden announcing that they've set up a task force to look at cyber attacks. Biden outlining that there are 16 critical infrastructure projects that he believes should be, quote, off limits to a cyber attack, citing the energy sector to water systems. But at the end of the day, Biden tried to thread a difficult needle here, wanting to be cordial and respectful to Putin, but insisting that when it comes to issues like human rights, that the United States will stand up for these values, whereas Vladimir Putin really deflected or didn't really get into questions about Russia's human rights record. So really interesting dynamic between the two. But I think the takeaway here is that they both wanted to convey to the world that the tone was cordial and respectful. Joe Biden putting an asterisk on it at the end, saying, you know, let's just see what happens in 6 months to see if the summit today carried any value.
It was interesting too, Richard. You just pointed out, the idea that Biden's saying, let's see how this all plays out. That old Russian expression, trust but verify, and also saying, look, I'm a realist. I know what the Russians are capable of, but I can also be an optimist here too. And to go into a meeting and say, oh, nothing good is going to come of this. Forget about it. This guy's a thug. That in itself will sort of, create a whole series of consequences. So let's try to stay positive.
Well, exactly. And if you compare Joe Biden's summit with Putin with Donald Trump's summit, you saw what Trump tried to do. He tried to cozy up to Putin. He tried to be his buddy and tried to be his pal, and that backfired spectacularly. So Biden, being a bit of a realist, while he will most likely get attacked by the Republicans for not having anything truly tangible or groundbreaking, Biden is looking at the long game. It's also worth noting another commentator who was in Geneva, who's covered Biden for decades, from a senator to a vice president to a former vice president and now the president, noted, I think quite accurately, that Biden is very much at ease talking about foreign affairs, global geopolitical issues, than he is dealing with domestic problems at home that he faces a whole litany of when he returns back to D.C. That Biden appeared to have a grasp of geopolitics facing the Middle East, facing China, facing Russia, as we saw throughout his week. And he conveyed his thoughts. He was articulate when he conveyed his thoughts about Russia's role in the world versus America's role in the world. So it was interesting to see him from that perspective. But ultimately, Biden's approach was to be somewhat tough, but also not having huge expectations going in. The White House was very clear, trying to lower expectations that there would be some sort of breakthrough in this summit. And there were a couple small deliverables, but nothing massive. And I think that's what Biden was hoping for. And to sum it up, when he said at the very end, I did what I came to do.
CTV's Richard Madan in Washington. Good to see you, Richard. Thank you.